Good afternoon and welcome. I am Trudy Murata, volunteer community ambassador with AARP Virginia. And from our earliest beginnings, AARP has championed lifelong learning. And that's why AARP Virginia is thrilled to bring you our third year of Tuesday Explorers, a lifelong learning program offered every Tuesday from January through the end of April at 3 o'clock East Coast time for our curious explorers. For more than 60 years, AARP has been a wise friend and fierce defender, helping individuals to ensure that their money, health, and happiness live as long as they do. AARP has earned this reputation as a wise friend and fierce defender through trusted information, tools, and advocacy designed to protect the health and financial security of older Americans and empower them to choose how they live as they age. By promising to be this wise friend and fierce defender, AARP is helping people who are 50 plus and their families feel confident, in control, and secure as they age. As this wise friend in your corner, AARP helps you protect yourself and your loved ones from frauds and scams through our Fraud Watch network. Get healthy and stay healthy. Care for loved ones, make connections, plan a trip, learn new technologies, attend a class, and have fun, like what we are doing today with our Tuesday Explorer program. So I hope you will continue to join me and others every Tuesday with these programs and take advantage of these opportunities and more. And with that, I will turn the program over to my AARP friend and colleague, Lily Lou. Lily Lou, it's all yours.
Thank you, Trudy. Hello, everyone. Happy almost March. First, let me thank Trudy Murata, who is my partner in crime, I'm calling her. She has been a fellow AARP volunteer with AARP Virginia. If you know AARP, we have a national office, but we also have 53 state offices. So being able to partner as a volunteer with Trudy has been just a delight. I wanted to first give a shout out to my staff friend, Amber Sultani, who is here. This series, the Tuesday Explorers, is Amber and a fellow volunteer, Mr. Subasati's brainchild. What a great idea during the cold winter months to fight social isolation, loneliness, to build community, and to be able to do more lifelong learning. They have offered this now for at least 3 years, and it's every Tuesday afternoon on the East Coast, 3 to 4 p.m. I hope that you have been benefiting from these wonderful offerings. Now, someone said, will you receive the recording? Absolutely. There will be no quiz, though, afterwards, but I'm going to ask Amber to put in the chat the recordings of the past ones that I have done since January 16th of this year. What I'd love to know from our audience, and please make sure that when you're chatting, make sure that it's to go to everyone. Sometimes it'll just say host and panelist. Because today we have a wonderful workshop idea, we want you to be able to share what you say with everyone. So please look when you're chatting that it's going out to everyone and not just host and panelist like I just did for 5 minutes. But the most important thing is today, by popular demand, we have someone back with us, a world-renowned poet, and she had already come and joined us. So if any of you have been with us since January the 16th, every Tuesday, please put that in the chat. I know there are some repeat offenders, as I'll call you. And then also, if you've been here 1 time, 2 time, please go ahead and let us know. We really want to feel like we have a sense of community for the Tuesday Explorers, innovated by AARP Virginia. Now it's my great honor to welcome our guest. She had been with us already once with a wonderful haiku workshop, and that recording is available. But today we actually have her reading her own poetry. So without my further ado, let me introduce Miho, who has now become a good friend, and yet I have not met her yet IRL in real life. So Miho, please kindly tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Miho Kinnas. I live in South Carolina for about 10 years now. I am originally from Japan, and I write poetry, book reviews, essays, and translate poetry. That's what I do. Lily, did you have questions for me or?
I was just letting that sink in because your background is so diverse, which means then that you are now able to draw from your own life experience and also what you're doing now. Because this has been targeted for those of us who are looking at what others are doing in this third stage of life. Just talk to us a little bit about how now that you've retired with your family with your husband to the Hilton Head, South Carolina area, what you've been engaging in. Because when you and I were talking briefly before this, I learned a lot from how you built a community and are now doing other things. So just a little overview of what you've been doing in the literary writing community.
Yes. So I have been writing creatively in English about 25 years. I switched my language from Japanese to English about 40 years ago under personal circumstances. But I did not start writing creatively until I was in my 40s, late 30s to early 40s. And then the third book I am going to read from today was published after about 25 years of my writing. So it's kind of it's a great landmark for me. And also I was included in Best American Poetry 2023. So this is going to be a very memorable book for me. But, Lily, you were talking about community. When one book comes out, a new community is born. I really enjoy my relationship with my publisher. My first two books were published in Singapore. But so the third one is from a publisher in Charleston, South Carolina. So it's 2 hour drive for me, but it's a local publisher. And it's a small company, and the owner is Marcus Amaka. He is the first poet laureate of the city of Charleston. So he's a poet slash publisher. But not only that, he's a graphic designer, musician, and really a cool guy. So I enjoy working with him, and he has it's growing community around his poetry and the poetry of the people he publishes. So I am really having a good time, promoting the book or teaching the classes based on my book. But not only that, I am beginning to really find out life as a writer does not have only writing. You have a picture of a writer sitting at the desk or typing and typewriter or computer, but that's only really a part of it. That is the most important part of writer's life. But you are in a community of writers and readers always. So there are a lot of opportunity to meet people, give workshops, or I am going to read a children's books in 2 weeks at the opening of a children's bookstore. But not only I'm reading it, I am going to translate this book into Japanese, and I'm going to read it in Japanese. So I get to use my skill as a translator, and I love books, and I get to meet young children, which is it's always so sweet and wonderful. So, and also last 2 weeks I was visiting assisted living, and I was giving a haiku workshop, and I had a wonderful audience. We all retired, and a lot of people do many things. People keep playing tennis or pickleball, but at the same time, people read a lot, and they're interested in what haiku is. And there are a lot of people who come to my workshops who had lived in Japan or visited Japan like in the 80s and 90s when the Japanese economy was really growing. So we talk about Japan back then, or sometimes they have souvenirs that said something in Japanese. Then I help them read it. So I meet a lot of people, and always community is growing, and I learn a lot from them. So I might talk about more specific things later on, what happens in my workshop. Yes.
That's perfect. The reason we wanted to do this whole series this January and February, for which Amber Soltani of AARP Virginia invited me to produce and host, is we wanted to show what people are doing, ordinary quote unquote people doing extraordinary things in a period of our lives, which AARP's founder did not call retirement. She called it environment. And so have already taught us how it's possible when you land somewhere where you've chosen to retire and yet build a new community. So thank you for that framing. Well, without further ado, we of course want to hear some poems from your latest book. So the book was published in 2023, and you will gift us today with reading from 4 poems. I believe you're kind to let us also share the screen so that we can read along as you give us your beautiful poetry. Please feel free to share this.
Okay. So I hope you can see this. Let me open this up like this. Okay, so this is the cover of my book, and Marcus Amaker, he designed this cover. I love this cover. And you will see Waiting for Sunset to Bury Red Camellia is the title. And I have a poem that includes this phrase. So you'll see that. So, so love and nature, that's today's title. So I have lots of love poems. I'd like to begin with this one. So this is, we are still in February, and, before Valentine's Day, every year when you go to the supermarket, the greeting card section is all red and pink and balloons. And then I'm really, trying to imagine, where do all these cards go? So this is how this poem started. I really believe every moment of my life can be a poem. Not only beautiful things, there are funny things, mistakes, and full of errors and forgetting things, but everything, if I try, every moment can be a poem. So this poem is called For You. I've misplaced a card chosen for you from the rack of pinks and reds. Who shall I be for you? Having finally found the one, I made sure cats won't scratch it, goldfish couldn't sprinkle it. But like I said, I cannot find it. I've searched everywhere, between the messages, behind the closet doors, under the pillows. I hear you saying, you must have misplaced me long ago in your previous life. So yes, this poem started with red and pink, and also, thinking about previous life. I like thinking about previous life and next life. Okay, this is a sort of a love poem as well. It's a little bit more sensual, I think. It's called Local Honey. I wrote this poem for a local magazine. It's called Local Life. And they feature local artist work and the local poets' work. So I have been lucky to be featured several times. But this one, they had a B special issue for that month. And they had a particular artwork, and they were looking for a poem. So I wrote for that art. So, if you look at the piece of art, if I work hard enough, I can always write a poem. Local honey, drenched in gentle rain, sinking into soft mud, soaked in the spring sun. You know how nice things in life can be messy and tangled. Drizzle and plunge, slathered, spilled over your fingers, golden. So yes, honey is messy, tasty, but a messy. So is life. Sometimes sweet moments can be very messy. I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. I live on an island called Hilton Head, and very lucky to be surrounded by rich nature. We have long beaches and lots of birds. And I am a swimmer. I'm sure many people are swimmers. And I swim in the pool and in the ocean. On January 1st, on Hilton Head, we do a polar bear plunge. So, on January 1st, a lot of people come to the beach and we just run into the water. And some people just 3 steps in, turn around, come back. But I tend to go all the way. But 2 years ago, this is 2022, we had a beautiful weather on that day. Sometimes it can be rainy, windy, and cloudy, but that day it was a really beautiful day. And lots of families on the beach, people laughing. And then I saw this daytime moon up in the sky. It's like white, lacy moon. And I saw seagulls, I saw kites. It was just beautiful. So I had these first 3 words in my head. So I started with moon, white, seagulls. And I was writing a regular poem. But this poem does not look so regular. I call it Sudoku form. Those are the number puzzles that you play. And I really like to play Sudoku. I'm doing that all the time. And I also like to think about how to structure my poem. Not only the length, I like short poems because I like short poems. I like a haiku, but it can be longer than haiku. But it's something like an object that I can put it on my hands and I can see everything and I can put everything in my mind. Long stories, a little different, right? You have to follow with time. But I like my poem, small poems, to really look at it from different angles. So this is the poem actually was selected for Best American Poetry. And the person who chose this, the guest editor of the year said, this is a poem you can read horizontally, vertically, or even diagonally. Actually, I wasn't thinking that when I wrote it, but she mentioned that and let me think kind of, oh, what can I do with this poem? So let me read it to you. It's only 27 words. And then there is a story in it. I am walking down the beach, thinking how beautiful it is, how happy everybody looks, how lucky I am. But then at the same time, there are people who are in pain, people who are suffering. And also, you don't know, I am happy today, but I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. That's true to everybody. So at the end, I was thinking this probability or possibility of having this beautiful day, how rare this experience might be. So that's the poem is about. 3 shrimp boats on the horizon. Moon, white, seagulls, kites, stars, horizon, air, water, wishes. Turn, shades, depth, wait, mirrors, tones. Listen, distance, whisper. Prussian blues, strings, cries, lost, crystal. Rock, paper, scissors. Thank you. Okay, the poem number 4. So this poem has Waiting for Sunset to Bury Red Camellias. I said I like small poems. However, I often make it a sequence. There are small poems, 1, 2, small poems, 3, small poems. So this one, it's a poem called The Sea Fog Arrives to Hide the Lies of a Woman Poet. So this is the title of this 8 sequence poem. So, but I'm reading just the last one. And this one, how I wrote it basically is, I have written 100 haiku in about a week time. I picked 10 colors and I wrote 10 haiku for each color. I was doing that because I wanted to submit my work to this journal. They were looking for poems and stories about social justice. So I wanted to talk about the issue of colors. So I picked 10 colors and I started writing. I was not selected, but I still like what I wrote. So I started rearranging so many times. So this is what I did. So this is a collection of many of the haiku I wrote. That became one long poem, narrow, long poem. Okay. Section 8. I would like to love you for the pleasure of loving you and nothing else. In a town by the lake, under the migrating birds, crossing the Japan Sea, in the depths of winter, we arrive as twin fishing boats in the safe harbor. At the kitchen window, sparrows in the sleepy afternoon, waiting for sunset to bury red camellias. Thank you so much.
Oh, Miho, let's let that sit for a while. The beauty of your images, the beauty of your voice. Wow, what an inspiration for all of us, because the whole point of the series that I have been so honored to be part of is lifelong learning, and I can see your life experience in your poems. And thank you for, giving us a little bit of background, because I know that our audience, they themselves have been poets or have enjoyed poetry, and they like to know about the thought process. As a matter of fact, one of our audience members very kindly said, "Oh, I love it when you have read in both Japanese and English." And it really gives her a better understanding of how we are truly all alike. And so she wants to have you keep doing it, because having the dual languages in your life, whew, I just want to let that sit for a while, because your poetry is so beautiful. Camellias are very much a part of South Carolina life right now, right?
Yes, it is. And it's interesting. There are so many haiku written about camellias. But
Yes.
the characteristics of camellia is they tend to fall as a whole, right? Not the petal by petal, which like a cherry blossoms do, like it's all over. But camellia tends to fall as one thing. So some people find it's not a good luck, but just that there are so many haiku, just that people think about the flower falls and it falls in a bucket and it's floating, it's still still blooming. Or like a red camellias, white camellias, one by one falling. Just there's so many different beautiful images from camellias. So
So beautiful. Well, because this is a lifelong learning opportunity, let me go ahead and share the screen, because Miho very kindly again is going to walk us through a very interesting opportunity to work on some haiku ourselves. So I want to first let everyone know again that this is Miho's latest book from what she just read, the 4 beautiful poems. And I'm absolutely fascinated. Did everyone notice, right in the chat, give Miho some love. I was struck by that almost concrete poetry where you first read horizontally, but then you skipped and started doing it vertically. Really a bit of surprise. You're very playful.
well, I think it gives a different meaning to me. And also, yes, people who notice start kind of chuckling. So it's a moment to have fun. Yes.
That's you. Well, that's why I wanted to point out that last time, together with the audience, we had a chance to do something that you called surprise haiku. So if anyone missed it, please feel free to go. We've sent out in the chat the different links so that you can go back and look at the recordings. Just explain very briefly what the exercise was, Miho, please. There was some.
Right. Okay. Yes. So in every poetry, surprise is very important element in any poetry, and especially in haiku. In 3 lines, in just 17 syllables at most, you have to give something unusual, So this one is the second one. So after falling down, she asked for a band-aid. And we saw it without looking at this third line. And everybody guessed, what would be the third line. And then there was one person, right? I think was very close to this correct answer, because this is Gary Gay. He's the name of the poet. His poetry, we just borrowed it. And I hit the third line. And we had maybe 7 or 8 poems that we had fun with. I think it was fun. People had so many different answers.
That's, we at ARP are very much into brain health. And I think these exercises are absolutely wonderful. I want to apologize. I clicked on the screen prematurely. But what
You gave away, yes.
I apologize. I'm still learning all this technology with Zoom. I think that's one of the benefits of all this. But today, what you're going to gift us with is photo haiku, which I had never heard of. So I'm going to be very careful that I don't hit the next button. But
yes, I ask you to go to the next one. So photo haiku, actually, there is an equivalent of PBS in Japan, public broadcasting. It's called NHK. And in the educational program, there used to be a TV program for this, photo haiku. So on TV, the people, they show the photographs and ask the audience to send in haiku to go with the picture. And the key is, though, we are looking at the photo, so we don't need to explain what we are seeing. Oh, there are 6 lines above, and then there are how many lines? You don't have to say that because we are looking at it. So then we are not exactly, but giving it a title. But it's like jazz music. Doesn't jazz music always have wonderful titles? And sometimes it comes from the lyrics, but sometimes it's instrumental. But there's something in the title that really is connected to music, but it's not a logic. It's nothing rational or linear relationship. It's a little oblique sometimes. You have to kind of think about it. So if you look at this picture, there is probably he's on a pilgrimage somewhere. And there's this sky, and as I said, there are lots of wires. If you are to say something, if you write a poem from this, what would it be? Just think about it. If you want to share, please go ahead, share. But I want an oblique relationship with this photograph and the poem.
yes, before
Okay.
I want to make sure that everyone knows that in the chat, there's an
Mhm.
option to send what you write to everyone or to the host and panelists. So please, as we're doing this haiku workshop, go ahead and make sure that you're clicking on everyone, because we want everyone to be able to share in your own creativity. Miho, should I advance a little to what?
So this is just a little warm up. So I have an example. So this is Kanchan Chatterjee. He is a poet from India, but he keeps winning a lot of prizes in Japanese haiku contest in English section. And he's quite well known in the circle. But this is what he did. So autumn begins, starting my Sanskrit lessons with the word karma.
Oh,
So you have to wonder, where did that come from? And he always have a season in mind, and blue sky is often associated with autumn, especially in Japan. In summertime, the humidity is high, so the sky is not clear. But once the humidity drops, the blueness of sky is just so gorgeous. I do believe he was studying Sanskrit. So he was, he had that in mind. But the karma, that's your karma, like a fate. So he's a bit deep thinker, which he can show us in this, just a few little words.
Yes, one of our audience members who sent it just to us instead of to everyone. So I want to quote her first line. Sherry had said, "Lines bisect the sky." Lovely.
Mhm. Yes. So she looked at the sky and it is bisecting. And it's a kind of beautiful geometric shapes in there. If you see how many triangles are there too.
And another, Michael has said, "Autumn begins, the blue sky deepens." Ooh, nice,
Mhm.
nice.
Yes. Yes.
Such a
Yes. And it
great.
gets cooler. Yes. Yes.
Should we now
Okay.
try our?
Yes. So what we're going to do is this is our workshop picture. And this photo was taken by Lily, by you. Would you like to, maybe, would you like to talk about this picture?
Very briefly,
Okay.
I had a trip unexpectedly to go and present about AARP history. I had been the AARP historian, and that's why I always talk about our founder. Many people do not know that AARP was founded by a woman, and her name was Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, Andrus. So when I got to Nashville, where the conference was, I was just struck by, of course, the Hard Rock Cafe guitar. But now Miho has prompted me to say, this could be the perfect photo for our writing workshop. So thank you.
So yes, let's look at the photos. And it's great to know the background of photo, but if we pay attention, this is a very interesting photo that, of course, the guitars they're building there and this tall building skyscraper behind, and you notice the traffic light, and then there is a crane arms just going, this way. So there is so much, and there's a shadow. It could be a midday, maybe. So please write a haiku for this picture. Let's spend a couple minutes or longer, and yeah, type it in the chat. I
Yeah.
think you can write about buildings, Hard Rock Cafe experience.
Let's make sure that when you put in the chat, make sure that you click on the word everyone. That way, everyone can see your creativity. Sometimes it defaults to the words host and panelists, so that will not reach our entire community. Thank you for that, Miho. I had not even thought about the significance of what I had snapped. I just was so happy to be able to be in Nashville. While our community is looking and thinking and being creative, you have always said it does not have to be that strict haiku syllable form.
Right. Yes. So please do not really count. This is almost like a guideline for the maximum number of syllables, because if it starts getting too long, it's too much. Maybe you try to say too much because you need to say only one thing in a haiku. That's the only thing we need. Um, I think haiku is a great form for people, for busy people, or people who are not feeling well, because, or maybe if you're taking care of somebody, you are on call all the time. But haiku is so short. It's just a jotting down or sketching, just the moment that you have. You can write it anywhere. So many famous poets wrote them toward the end of their life, especially the people like Richard Wright, we talked about last week. He is a novelist, but when his health was not good, maybe he could not write a novel, but he wrote great poetry, great haiku. So whenever I have a minute and concentrate and you write 3 lines, there may be a complete work, but there may be a beginning of something, I believe.
Oh,
So just jot down, Hard Rock Cafe may be the first line.
yes.
Skyscraper might be the first line.
You are the best instructor, the mentor, because already we have quite a few. I'll just read a few lines from each of them.
Yes. Yes.
Person had said, David said, I love country music sounds. Amy has said, listen with your heart. Mary Lynn, needle pokes the sky.
Right.
That's right. Bev said, hard rock locations. And then very, very, very true. Another t-shirt to buy, teenage daughter's life. Mary Lynn had the one which is needle pokes the sky, waiting for the music to start. Melissa, the guitar gently guides my walk in the city, a circuitous path.
That's interesting. Yes.
Rock
Right.
rocks, delicious food and drinks. Yes, I will attest to that. Red rocking all day from Erica. Red craning, aha. Swinging all morn. Red light makes you stop. Ooh.
Nice.
Arlene again with the beautiful music building skyward. Michael, like a statue on a pedestal. A hard cafe guitar. Enter here to eat from very true. Cheryl, music softens us. Oh, Sherry Moon, building as chapel.
Oh, right.
Music,
Yeah.
huh? Celebrate them now. Bev, rock music. Listen amidst the gorgeous sky. Yes, that was my mood that day. And then someone has said that one was lively. Yeah. And then Rochelle, will the muse appear on this lovely day or slip away? Nice. Rock hard into the sky from Wendy. Concrete and electric pierce blues and the blues soar. Ooh, interesting play on words. Catherine, stop directed time. Rest without craning. Ooh, that's good in craning of the neck too. Rock in, oh my goodness, these are wonderful. Oops, I've just lost my place now. Sorry.
Yes, it's wonderful, like craning and cradled. Yes, sounds
Mhm.
really great together.
Oh my goodness. Well, I want to make sure that everyone has sent this not to host and panelists, but to everyone so that people can share and see it because the Zoom, oh, look at all this. It's just popping the chat. So many wonderful ideas.
Right.
How would you, without asking you what you would write, Miho, how would you sort of deconstruct the photo? Because I think we can all learn. What's wonderful about this platform of Tuesday Explorers is it's lifelong learning. Give us your, as a mentor who, helps people write haiku.
Well, I think the only thing I can do is to point out and look at the photo or picture together. There is a word called ekphrastic poetry. If you look at the poetry and you write a poem based on some piece of art, it's called ekphrastic. I think it's a Greek word. But all I can do is to really guide attention because we all have different memories. And one time I was trying to write, yes, we are writing a poem about lavender. And it's a color lavender and a fragrance lavender. And then another word we had on a word list that day was Ferris wheel. Ferris wheel, lavender. How would you connect that? And there was one lady, she was very quiet. It's kind of shy because I can't write it anything. But when she heard lavender and Ferris wheel, she remembered her prom dance like decades ago, maybe 60 years ago, prom dance. She remembered, she just connected those two and it wrote a beautiful haiku. So, I never know what the people had experienced, but I get to see that moment of somebody's life from just about anything. If we need to spend a little time on it, look at it and think it through and read, look into your memories and mind. And it is just amazing what comes out.
And what's so wonderful, I think Amber Saltani, my AARP Virginia staff colleague, I think we need to put out our own little chat book of this, because the creativity that's in the chat is just wonderful. Let me point one out to you, from William, and he had written, and so what's wonderful is in the chat, people are reacting to each other's. William had written, "Spire reaches to the sky, guitar neck jealously looks on. Building lies flat, sigh."
Oh,
A lot of reaction to that one. I think we need to come out with our own little Tuesday Explorers haiku booklet from this.
actually, it is great to do it as a group. We need to have, quiet time to ourselves. But by writing together, even though we're writing a separate poems today, you read other people's work, and that makes you think about something else. So when I do a face-to-face work sessions, it's even easier. You start chatting with the person who sat next to you, and then, did you know? And then they discover that they share the love of jazz music, or they came from the same city, or they happen to know someone in common. Just all things come up. And then also poetry deepens, as you can see in the beginning, and then people keep writing second one, third one, it gets deeper and deeper, and it's more crafty, as you can see it develops. So yes, I mean, write together and put together a book. That's an excellent idea. I think we would really love doing that.
Yes, well, that's why I've been so grateful to AARP Virginia. The AARP state director is Jim Dow. And in the Northern Virginia area, our staff colleague is Amber Saltani, who's here as the host. I just want to thank them because this has been such a treat to be able to see what we can do to build community here in the Tuesday Explorers. The fact that many of you have put in the chat, you've come back one time, two times, multiple times, you find something of meaning. And then second is to be able to see how the creativity that is out there, I just love, and please continue to share. But I wanted to use this forum especially to show what our neighbors, our friends are doing in this period of life that AARP's founder, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, she did not call it retirement. She called it refirement. And the reason I had invited Miho to come back is she had very kindly walked us through a workshop last time about haiku. But I also wanted her to talk about how she has been one lonely poet sitting there writing by herself, moved to Hilton Head, built a community, people welcomed her. Now she's mentoring others. I know that those of you out there have similar interests. How do I sort of bust out of my own four walls of my home and look at the example that Miho has set for us? So please continue to write haiku in the chat, but let's let Miho talk a little bit more about her own journey, one of which is now, because she has published this book, she's an invited speaker. What's coming up? If there are any members joining us from New York, what's coming up this coming week?
On the 23rd Friday, I'll be at the New York Public Library, the branch on the Fifth Avenue. And actually, right now, this registration is full. It's waitlisted. So actually, 40 to 50 people signed up. However, there is a quota for walk-ins. And also, I'm on the ground floor, the corner of the ground floor of the library. So anywhere from the ground floor of the library, you can see me or hear me. I think I'll be pretty loud. And actually, I'll be performing one of the poems. I would say performing because my daughter is going to play a violin, and we're going to read it together. So we rehearsed it a couple times. I hope it'll work. I think it'll be something a little special. So that's what's happening on Thursday. Yes, I mean Friday this week.
Yes. So these in-person events, how do you choose what you'd like to read? Do you ever think about, where you're going to be, what day of the week, what
Oh,
month?
yes. Yes, for the public library, I think, if I go to a small poetry reading in a gallery or coffee shop, most people are poetry lovers, so-called. But if I go to a library, I think about book lovers. So, it's not only poetry. I like to talk about a little bit wider, whatever I know of. And also, I have some poets closely related to New York City, but who is not so well known. There are some, forgotten poets that you don't know until you really look for this person. There is a reason, like some people leave America, live in Europe, and then we tend to forget, right? The person is not here anymore, but has a lot of footprints. So I'm trying to find those people, and I found some with very closely related to New York City. So I am going to talk about that. And I'll be talking a little bit about haiku and also my book. So my book has camellias. So I try to find the poems that has camellia in it. So it's very flowery, and I took a lot of pictures of camellia flowers. So I hope it'll be interesting one.
Oh, you'll be fabulous. So anyone who's in New York know about this coming up. But also what's lovely is the pandemic has taught us all the ability to leverage the virtual platform. And so you have actually used the virtual platform to help mentor other poets.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit. I don't know what writers.com is. What is?
Right. Writers.com is a writing school on the internet. But this is one of the oldest online writing school. And I have started using it about the year 2000, and they have already been established. So it's one of the oldest, really, the platforms. And there are wonderful, wonderful teachers. My first teachers are still teaching there. He was just so wonderful. He still helps me. I mean, it's such a long time, really. I never met him again. It's only his classes and emails. And I taught one class with him. He invited me to teach with him, so he's so generous. And then I started teaching this class about 2 years ago, and I give 4 or 5 sessions. I met a lot of people. One time there was a medical doctor who joined me from Germany, but he's based in California, but he was on a business trip to Germany, so it was the middle of the night for him. However, he wanted to use haiku or short poetry to help him help his patients.
Yes.
So yes, so he had a very, difficult situations, and he tries to help people talk about it, write about it. And I mean, I think it's wonderful. And we try to help him how to structure such programs, trying to find somebody who can help right there in his town. Um, or I met other really good poets. They are professional poets, they're teachers. They come to take my classes, and we talk about haiku. Really, we talk about haiku. And there are people, beginners, so-called people who almost never heard of haiku,
Yes.
but wanted to know, was curious. So they're just it's a community, different people from all over, like Singapore to New York to California, South Carolina. People come from everywhere because it's Zoom, it's virtual, like here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That will
So
be you limit these those the size though, because you want to have, more intimate gatherings.
right.
So these onlines, what's a good number of people to be on together?
I normally ask for 8 people. If it's face to face, I can work with maybe 10 to 12 people. But the online, I think 8 people is a good number, and it's enough variety among us. So including me, 9 people from also different walks of life. So it's and in different stages of writing. So it's 8 or 9 people. Yes.
That's great because we have very accomplished people in our community on today. And Arlene has made a very interesting observation that today, being able to see other people's views on, writing from the same photo, there was no camera in this webinar format, which allows
Oh,
people to see each
yeah.
other's words without prejudices or preconceptions. That's a
Mhm.
very, very wonderful observation.
I felt when I was doing a workshop a couple weeks ago, I felt this space was very safe space for the participants. You know, we were not worried about what the people would think, especially maybe because we can't see each other. We're from all over. There's no point worrying about what people think about me. So, but also yesterday I was at the Pat Conroy Literary Center, which is located in Beaufort, South Carolina. It's a nonprofit organization. When the writer Pat Conroy, when he passed away, the family set up this foundation, and we have this wonderful place. It's a home for South Carolina and Southern, and actually so many writers. And I owe everything what I do in this country, especially to the executive director of Pat Conroy Literary Center. His name is Jonathan Haupt. When I moved to America, I did not know anybody. And my first book just came out, and I was having readings in Asia, in Hong Kong, Shanghai, Singapore, but I didn't know anybody, so I didn't know what to do. But then I met Jonathan at one of the workshops he organized. And then I presented him my first little book to him, and he invited me to do a workshop. I do have a master degree in creative writing, and I do have a certificate to teach. So that's when I started meeting other local writers. So everything started from there. I joined Poetry Society of South Carolina, and I joined the local Island Writers Network. There are book clubs at the library. So everything started from there. So if you move and you don't know anybody, if you go to the library, good things happen.
Well, that's a master class in what you've taught us about if you have a passion, how you can join a community. So any of you who are on here who have sort of felt because of the cold winter weather, these are very good tips. And I just want to thank everyone for engaging. I think, Miho, you've given me some ideas for maybe 2025 and the Tuesday Explorers series about how we can use this wonderful AARP Virginia opportunity. But I did want people to know that you do offer things also virtually so that people who are not able to come to New York, you do things that are virtual.
Yes, I'm happy to share my email address. It's just my name, miho.kinnas@gmail.com. And please write to me if you have any questions or suggestions. And also, Miho Kinnas, I am the only Miho Kinnas on Facebook. So if you send me a friend request, please say that you saw me at the AARP, because I do not accept strangers as my friend. Nowadays, you need to be careful. So please mention AARP. Then I'm glad to have you as my Facebook friend. All my activities and other ocean photos and bird photos are there.
Well, the most important thing is you have graced us with your creativity. Beautiful, beautiful poems. I want everyone to know that ARP Virginia has made this a wonderful lifelong learning platform. So what we will do is we will be sending out information about Miho. This will go out with the recording, so don't worry if you have to leave early, so that you have these resources. Let me stop sharing and let me just make sure. There was one question in the Q&A, whether there's something new. And oh yes, just real quick, how did you first start writing? And was it first just, poetry first, or haiku right away?
I wanted to become a translator of Japanese poetry, and I've been a huge reader all my life, and I loved reading poetry. And then I thought, I'm going to translate this. But then one teacher told me, Miho, you have to be a poet if you want to translate poetry. Oh, so that's why 25 years ago I started writing. So I do translate poetry, and I have a new project I'm getting started, a book of poems. The Japanese poet who passed away recently, she should have won a Nobel Prize, I think. But anyway, so yes, so I wanted to be a translator. That's how I started writing poetry.
That was great advice. Well, before we turn this back to AARP Virginia's awesome volunteer colleague, let me just thank everyone. And please put in the chat if you've enjoyed this, if you wish to have more learnings like this for lifelong learning. And thank you for joining us. And let Miho, please, I invite you to just give us a few more words of wisdom as we close out today's wonderful event.
I do not know if I have any word of wisdom. However, I am so grateful for the people I met, especially, since I moved here, I really did not know anybody. And it's a beautiful place for me to live. But I was born in Tokyo and lived in Hong Kong, Shanghai, big cities. So this is a very different, it's an island. It's a beautiful resort. But I met a lot of people in Audubon Society, my book club, and as I mentioned, Pat Conner Literary Center. There are so many kind people. And then, people are so kind to me and gave me opportunity to do things. So, when I am here for 10 years, I have been doing a lot of things. So I can introduce, the writers to other writers or the people who have, I don't know, influence over others. So, I like to, well, we help each other basically. Again, this is a community. A book creates community, and, readers, writers come together. We learn together. I learn a lot from what people tell me about, say, my poetry or somebody else's poetry. We study poetry together and we have a workshop, private workshops, and 5, 6 of us get together every week and have fun. So I think there are lots of opportunities when you love something and you share it with other people. There are a lot of great things that are to come.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, because that is exactly why AARP Virginia created the Tuesday Explorers, to build community, to fight isolation. That social isolation is such a problem right now, to fight loneliness and to keep our brains, our cognitive health going. So thank you all for the lovely thoughts that you've put in the chat. And Miho, they're just raving about you. We will definitely have you back again in 2025. And now allow me to invite my wonderful volunteer teammate, Trudy, to close us out. Thank you, Trudy.
Yeah, we need to share all of these comments with you, Miho, because they're very grateful, very thankful for this time that they spent with you, and you are such a graceful and gentle spirit to share with us today. So thank you on behalf of all of our guests, on behalf of myself, and on behalf of AARP Virginia. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your spirit, and your knowledge with us this afternoon. Our Tuesday Explorers program will continue next week, and we invite you to join us. You can register for upcoming programs on Tuesday Explorer at aarp.org/Virginia events. Until next time, we encourage you to stay curious, keep writing those poems and haikus, and keep exploring. And hopefully we'll see y'all next week. Miho, thank you. Lily, thank you. It's been a great afternoon.
Yes, and we've had next week's author join us, Dr. Thomas Wu. He has a very important book, a memoir, and I can't wait to have him be our guest next week, because he has written it as something, as a legacy project to leave to his grandchildren. So any writers out there, come on back next Tuesday. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.